Well, hey, good morning everybody, and welcome back to another video at my local neighborhood park. I've shot a couple vlogs from here last year during our lockdown, and we're not under lockdown again, but we're having gasoline shortages of all things. Oh my God, the last year, pandemics and lockdowns, 600,000 dead, riots, lootings, insurrection, worker shortage, meat shortages, and now gasoline shortages. What a shithole. Anyway, so I've come down to my local neighborhood park and thought I'd do a vlog from here today, so let's go. So over the last couple weeks, I've been really struggling with my vlogs and feel really disconnected from the photography part of it. Just so rushed whether to do the vlog or get the photography done. So last week I just did a silent vlog where I just did some minimal B-roll and really took the whole weekend just to practice photography, work on some techniques that I've been wanting to try out, and just really enjoyed myself. And one of the things that I've been working on is this notion of exposing to the right. It's something that I've really fought against my entire photography career, because if you look at like 75% of my photos, I would say are underexposed purposely, going for that dark, moody look that I really like in my photos. So it's something that I've always really fought against because, like I said, I underexpose everything just to try to get that dark, moody look. But over the last 2 weeks, I've really been practicing this exposing to the right. And so I wanted to talk about that this morning. So I'm gonna take just a couple photos. It's gonna be a really simple vlog, and we'll take them back to the computer and see how they turn out. So as you can see, the scene around me and behind me is a really high contrast scene. Behind me I have nothing but bright sun, blue skies, white clouds, I have that white water fountain all the way in the distance there, and the sun's reflecting and glaring off the lake. But as I come in here amongst these beautiful trees, I fall into some really dark shadows. These trees are one of the few trees that actually lose all their leaves during the winter here in Florida, and they haven't all quite come back yet, so I'm getting some harsh 10 o'clock sunlight coming through and adding to my highlight problem here. But I'm really gonna try to embrace this whole exposed to the right kind of thing and see what we come up with. I'll probably take a few shots today, probably using the camera's light meter. What the camera tells me is perfectly exposed, and then I'll do exposed to the right, and I might even do a 3-shot bracket too to see which one actually comes out the best. So let's get on with it. Okay, so for this first shot, I'm gonna use just the camera's light meter. As you can see, it's at 0 EV right now. You can see the rest of my settings there. So that's basically what the camera thinks is gonna be the perfect exposure for this scene. So I'm gonna take this shot, we'll put it up on the screen, and we'll take a look at how good of a job it did. All right, there we go. Focused. Boom. All right, let's put that up on the screen and take a look at it. Hey everybody, welcome back. So in the interest of time, I've already loaded this into Lightroom. As you can see, I have my 5 photos here. So we'll go to the develop module. That first one that's going to come up is the first image that I took with my Sony A7RIII, just using the Sony's built-in light meter. And really straight out of camera, it does not look too bad. If I turn on the clipping highlights, you can see just a couple spots here at the top and then through the trees like I was talking about. So basically, to edit this, to get started, I would just basically just lower a little bit of the highlights, and you can see the blue skies coming through there. I'd raise the shadows a bit, and maybe just a little bit on the exposure. If you look over here at the histogram, just maybe touch the side there. Maybe raise the whites a little bit just to make it a little bit more vibrant. And touch on the blacks. So straight out of the camera, not too bad. It is the Sony A7RIII we're talking about. It's a fantastic camera. I plan on using it for several years more to come, hopefully. All right, let's look at the next image. All right, so for this next shot, I'm gonna really push it to the right. I'm gonna try to max out those highlights and see what we can recover. So as you can see, even with what the camera thinks is perfectly exposed right here, I'm starting to clip the highlights just a little bit, but I'm gonna really push those up, probably to about 50 to 75% of up on the side there. As you can see, I'm starting to get more and more zebra stripes here in my scene. So let's go ahead and take that, and let's see how this works out. And that looks absolutely horrible on the back of the screen. Okay, so let's click over to the second photo. And there it is. This is the one that I exposed completely to the right. And if you look at my histogram, you can see my highlights are completely blown out. And if I turn that on, you can see where I've blown out the highlights at. So to edit this one, I'm just going to bring down the highlights about -50 or so to start. Now the beauty of exposing to the right is look at the shadow areas, which was my foreground and my tree trunks. They look pretty good as is. So I might just raise the shadows just a tiny bit, 15 or so, and I'm going to raise the whites a little bit just to give it a little bit of vibrance, but not too much. About right there. And I'm going to leave the blacks alone for right now. Now, if you look at the histogram again, it looks like I'm still clipped a little bit, so I'm going to lower the overall exposure of this photo to about right there or so. Now, let's compare that to the first photo. So I'm going to click on the first photo we edited already, and there it is. And then back to the exposed to the right one, and there it is. So I'm still clipping a little bit here. So I'm going to lower that even more. And I think that looks pretty good. So really, there's something to be said for this exposing to the right thing. I really did not introduce any more noise into this photo because I've lowered the overall exposure. I've lowered the highlights. Yeah, I raised the shadows and the whites a little bit, but I don't think enough to really add any noise. And that is really the goal of this. If you're posting just on social media, not going to make a difference, but if you were to make a print of this, and I'm not, but if I were, I didn't add any more noise into the photo other than what my camera already naturally adds. So yeah, definitely something to be said for this exposing to the right thing. Now let's move on to the 3-shot bracket where I exposed it a little bit more to the right than I normally would have. All right, for this final shot, I'm going to do a 3-shot bracket. So let me get that set up real quick. So as you can see right now, I am 1 stop underexposed. One of the shots is going to be perfectly exposed, and one of the shots is going to be 1 stop overexposed. But instead of doing that, I am going to push it to the right. So my first shot is going to be what the camera thinks is perfectly exposed, and then 1 stop overexposed, and then the final shot will be 2 stops overexposed. As you can see, just nothing but zebras in that top part of my frame there. As you can see on the histogram, it's about probably 75 to 80% of the whites totally clipped. All right, like I said, this is just a big experiment, so let's give it a shot and see what we come up with. And that 2-stop overexposed looks absolutely horrid. Let's check that out again. Oh my God, that looks terrible. But that's the point of this experiment. So let's take it home and check this out and see what we got. All right, so let's move on to the bracket shot. Now, there it is. That's the one that the camera deemed the proper exposure. This photo right here would be the 1-stop overexposed, and this nasty looking photo would be the 2-stop overexposed photo. So I'm going to select all 3 of those, right click, photo merge. I'm just going to do an HDR merge on this one. And the initial preview looks pretty good, so let's go ahead and merge those together. All right, and there it is. Let's click that. Wow, that looks pretty good without doing, I mean, it did its own basic edit on it, so let's check out what it did. It's lowered the highlights, so if I brought those back up, yeah, it did a pretty good job there. It raised the shadows a little bit more than I did on the other one. So again, I like things darker and moodier, so I'm going to drop that just a tad. It raised the whites about the same that I did, and it lowered the blacks. I'm going to bring those back up a little bit. And I'm going to take out the vibrance and saturation because I didn't do that on the other photos too. Just very basic edit. And wow, that looks really good. Turn on the clipping highlights. I don't see anything clipped. You can see the blue skies up here. Yeah, let's see what happens if we even drop the highlights even more. And the overall exposure has been lowered as well. I think I can raise that just a little bit. Kiss the side of the histogram there. Man, that looks really good. Let's compare that to the other 2 photos that we edited. So
This is currently the shot bracket. Now I'll click over here, and this is the camera's light meter edit that we did. And then this one is the exposed to the right. Looks really good. I think out of the three, though, my favorite is probably the 3-shot bracket. I'd have to look at it a little bit more. Sometimes I don't like the HDR look, but I think it looks pretty good here. It doesn't look oversaturated. Everything's really well exposed. And wow, yeah. And again, this one was, remember, the first photo was what the camera deemed properly exposed, and then 1 stop overexposed, and then 2 stops overexposed. So we really blew out the highlights, but it was still able to retain a lot of the detail up there in the sky. So yeah, I'm really happy with this. Like I said, I think there is something to be said for this. So this might be something that I explore more going forward. And again, the goal is really just not to introduce any more noise into your photo as possible. But when you underexpose, which I'm very guilty of in the past, and then having to raise everything, you're introducing noise into your original photo. It doesn't look very good on the back of the camera, and I know we all want to take that photo, look at the back of our camera and think, oh my God, I'm the greatest photographer ever. But if you can get results like this by overexposing or exposing to the right and then lowering everything in your photo and not introducing any noise, that might be even a better way to go. Leave me some comments down below and let me know what you think of this.
All right, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in this week. Hope you enjoyed my look at exposing to the right. And I can't tell you I'm 100% sold on it yet, but I definitely am going to continue to work on it every time I'm out taking photos. And at the very least, it gives me another tool to enable me to capture the best photo in camera, capture the most data, and then when I bring it back into post-processing, enables me to introduce the least amount of noise possible. And as photographers, that should be one of our main goals. And I hope you'll stick around to the very end. I'm gonna have the final edit of the photo that I exposed all the way to the right and a final edit of the 3-shot bracket. All right, everybody, hope you enjoyed the video this week. Thanks for tuning in. If you're new to my channel and you liked what you saw this week, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I'd love to have you around for the weekly landscape photography adventures. And I hope to get back to those as soon as we're past this gas shortage here in the Southeast United States. All right, everybody, have a great week. Stay safe out there, and we'll see you next Monday. Thanks, guys. Bye.